Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about several different charts. Right here on the top, I've got the total altcoin market cap chart. Right there on the bottom down here, I've got the NASDAQ chart. We're also going to talk about the Ripple XRP price chart. We'll talk about Bitcoin and a couple of the different altcoins to show how we're seeing changes going on in this market right now. But first, I wanted to kind of talk about just where we are in the market cycle for cryptocurrency in general. Obviously, the last couple of months have been kind of a whirlwind of where we're at in this whole market, especially with what's going on in the stock market, what's going on with unemployment, what's going on with the crazy illness in the world, and what's going on with the crazy price action in cryptocurrency. It's all been all over the place, and we're all just trying to make sense of it all, right? And I keep always get drawn back to comparing these two charts right here because both of these are pretty much indexes, right? The NASDAQ is a composite of, the top market cap stocks. And then the altcoin market cap is the composite of all of the altcoins together. So we aren't looking at the individual fluctuations of single stocks and single industries and how those industries are performing. We're looking at everything as a whole in both of these charts, right? So we're looking at the whole stock market on the bottom. We're looking at the whole cryptocurrency market on the top there to get an idea of how do market cycles work in relation to the grand big picture. And we have talked about this several times dating back to November and December, comparing these two charts, and we've had more data play out. We haven't talked about it in a little bit, so I thought it would be a great time because now we've got more data playing out, and it's starting to look kind of like what we anticipated that it would look once it came out of here. I'm sure you guys have seen this chart 100 times. We've even talked about it several times, but this is the Wall Street cheat sheet, the psychology of a market cycle. And you see this in any type of bubble. So what we're essentially looking at, what is a bubble like? What are the emotions like going into a bubble? And what are the emotions like coming down out of a bubble when it's deflating? And of course, we get the euphoria, the optimism, and the new paradigm when you get to the very top, the big crash. A lot of retail traders come in here chasing this, expecting it to go higher, and then it continues its crash even lower in a gloom and doom fashion, which is what we saw in both of these markets, right? We saw monstrous crashes. The cryptocurrency market lost about 90%. The NASDAQ lost over 80%. So these were monstrous corrections after new paradigm bubbles that took place. But we saw similar things that happened when we came up off the bottom, especially when we look at that Wall Street cheat sheet, the disbelief, the suckers rally. We had that in both of these charts happen. And that would be these big bounces that came up off the low and then crashed back down to the bottom. So big bounce up off the low and crash down to the bottom. And these didn't happen quickly, right? We can look at the amount of time these took, right? This took about as long as the initial crash took. This took about as long as the initial crash took. So from a time perspective, this suckers rally took as long to play out as this whole crash did. And from a time perspective, this suckers rally took a little bit longer than this crash took to play out. So here we are, right? We've got our double tap right off the bottom of the total altcoin market cap down here, just like we had our tap up off the bottom down here on the NASDAQ. Now, I want you to look at this moment in time right here, and just to make things a little bit more appeasing to the eyes, I'll take that off right there. And I'm going to zoom this chart over a little bit like that. Now, when we kind of put it like this, do you think people thought at this time right here, we were going to go break out into new all-time highs over the course of the next decade? Now, I can tell you from living in that moment that for certain, people did not believe that. That was in 2010. That's when things were really bad in the economy. You didn't know if you were going to have a job. You'd hope that you were going to be able to pay your mortgage. At that time, most people were upside down on their mortgage payments. It was so easy to get a loan back then. Not only that, the interest rates were higher. So people had anywhere between like 6 to 9% interest rates on their houses. And some of them had crazy loans where the interest rate spiked up to like 15%, unlike what people are seeing now of this 3 and 4% interest rate. That is not how it was a decade ago. But anywho, back in 2010, you had people disappearing in the middle of the night. That have a moving truck show up and take all their things out of their house. The blinds would be missing on the house and the people would just be gone. So if you're under 30, it's kind of hard for you. Under 30 years old, it's hard to kind of really know what that time was like. And at that time, this stage in the market cycle, people certainly were not buying here screaming, yes, we're going to go on to new all-time highs. No, things looked very gloomy and doomy in the world at that time. But you could see just from the anatomy of a market cycle and where we were at that time, the correction had already completed. It was time. We had already drained, we'd already deflated all of the bubble out. We already double tapped the bottom with the suckers rally, and it was time to start grinding up, which is where we're at over here in the cryptocurrency or the digital asset market. And I expect it to be something like the same as we go back and approach the top again, right? I expect that it's not going to look like a big parabolic grind out of here for the whole ride up, which is what people would love to see because it just gives you comfort, right? You get so far away from your buy-in price that you start feeling that comfort. But what it usually looks like is something that it looks like it's just going to tease you the whole way, right? While it is still grinding, it just looks like it wants to roll over the whole time, but still it somehow manages its way back up to the all-time high, just not in a beautiful format of yay, there we go. But it's what makes me so excited because I'm always doing the mathematics behind it all, right? That's what matters to me, right? How do I benefit the most? When you're going to get the most gains out of something, you have to buy when it's incredibly uncomfortable. And so we look at people who bought back here. So let's turn this off the log scale and scoot this over a little bit like this. We're talking about this moment right back in here, right? So people who were buying here at this moment in time right now, just a decade later, they're up nearly 400%, right there. That's 383%. However, you have a bunch of retail traders who now have all the confirmations they need to believe that this market is going to go on and create a much bigger bubble. So buying right in here in this region, right along here, and they are all up a solid 28% compared to the people who were buying during these times, who are up 383. Now let's pretend that this bubble goes on to do something just absolutely atrocious, right? The Federal Reserve just starts buying everything and just blows the largest bubble we've ever seen in our life before it finally all comes crashing down, right? How will all of these retail traders, these Robinhood traders, do in this time buying now that they have the confirmations they need? Wow, they're going to make 180%. That's incredible, right? So they put in, $5,000 into their Robinhood account. They've now practically tripled it. They've got like $14,000. They're just like, yeah. But that doesn't really change their life, right? 14 grand. I don't think that's going to change many people's lives dramatically for at least longer than a couple of months, maybe. But the people who got in way down here, right, with that same amount of money, how are they doing at this time? Well, they're up nearly 1,000%, right? They did over 5 times better than the people who got in at this time, assuming that they're going to hold it all the way, right? Now, of course, the thing about cryptocurrencies is that we've had a bigger drawdown than that, so the percentages to the upside are significantly higher. The absolute minimum that I would be expecting on the total market cap would be a 4.236 extension on the Fibonacci scale, which would bring it up to, let's see how many percentage is that, which is about 2,000, right? That's not unrealistic, right? If you're going to make 1,000% over there on the Nasdaq, 2,000% in crypto is totally logical considering the percentages that we've seen just in last market cycles. If I just start you right there, I mean, it's 10,000% right there. And I know sometimes those numbers sound atrocious or crazy when you hear thousands of percentages, but it's what we've seen in the past. It's what we've seen in every single market cycle. And I would be expecting at a minimum to get to this extension right here. For the altcoins, so at least a 20x increase from current prices for the whole market cap, and potentially significantly higher, but at a minimum, I would be expecting that. But okay, let's move on. Let's take a look over here at the XRP price chart. Obviously, we're just still stuck in this range. Yesterday, I didn't make a video because we've been stuck right in here, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to finish my taxes. I did file my taxes. I paid my taxes. I didn't even really get on Twitter yesterday. I went and laid down and cried for a little while. I'm just kidding, but I did go lay down. No joke. It was painful. So yeah, the price is still stuck in this range. We're looking fine to me, right? Everything is still okay. Looks like yesterday's close was actually at like 1749, so one tick below that 17.5. I'm not going to freak out over that considering that we're now higher than yesterday's open at this point. So I'm still waiting for the price to pop out of here and get us up to about 19 cents just to feel a little bit more comfortable. But as for now, still looking fine. A difficult week to really make content on this chart considering that This thing was green just an hour ago, so it's just fluctuating just between fractions of a penny to turn this thing green and red and green and red. But it's just ranging so tight right now. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this. My anticipation is that we're much more likely to break to the upside and do a retrace in all of this open area about 28 cents before we do our next round of consolidation. So still looking good to me, still excited, and I do believe this is that final moment to be grabbing it at these prices. Some of the positive things that we are seeing around the market is that you can see over here on like the 0x chart, right? This is a year and a half of resistance that's been holding it down, and now it's actually broken up above it, and it looks like it's ready to go on another tear to the upside. So we are seeing positive things floating around here in the market. Of course, with Cardano, we're seeing the same thing, right? We're seeing that they were starting to break out above into newer highs. So we're not making lower highs. We're finally making higher highs over here on a major cryptocurrency in the crypto market, along with them being comfortable enough to really start grinding away at their big project of Shelly and releasing such huge news right there. Means they're optimistic that the bull run's coming. They're trying to front run it and get into the headlines as the time comes. And that's exciting too. As for Bitcoin, literally nothing to say about it. Just stuck here in this range. We're waiting to see what's going to happen. Judging by what we're seeing in the rest of the market, I find it more likely that it does break to the upside than to the downside. If it broke to the downside, it wouldn't be a big deal to me. It doesn't really matter. This is more of a long-term hold. And even if it did get out to the upside, like up here, I would still expect it to come back down here and still range for a while before it went on a super, super long bull run. Or if it broke to the downside, hey, well, then that would just mean it does more of a um, similar to what we saw back in here. So that's okay. So as you can tell, it doesn't really matter which one it does to me. If we break to the upside right now, to me, it seems more likely that we're going to have longer consolidation and then break out into the big bull market. However, if we go ahead and have a big long squeeze right now, our chances for doing something like that are higher. So it doesn't matter to me which way this is going. Of course, I would hope that altcoins like Ripple XRP's price chart would not be drastically affected by something like that. And again, we don't really know if this was actually just one entity that caused that type of liquidity move. So we'll see on that. Either way, Bitcoin kind of just reminds me of that meme with the kind of guy standing there with a stick poking at it saying, come on, do something. But every time I tend to do that, something dramatic happens. So I don't really mean anything dramatic. We'll see what happens. But all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Go ahead and follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. Please check out the affiliate link in the description of this video to Unstoppable Domains, which is a member of Ripple's Open Payments Coalition for PayID. There will be a day where our public keys are replaced by PayIDs and where you'll be able to have one unique domain address to have all of your assets sent to. For example, mine is bcbacker.crypto. Please visit the link in the description of this video to Unstoppable Domains to get yours. I want to thank you guys so much for watching my channel, and I hope that you guys have just an absolutely fantastic weekend. I probably will still get another video out over the weekend, especially if we get some type of price action. If we remain tightly wound and nothing changes, then we'll see. But either way, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.